Have you ever looked at your creatinine results and felt that awful drop in your stomach? That fear that maybe your kidneys aren't bouncing back the way you hoped? Because if you have, you're not alone. Every single week, I meet patients who are trying their absolute best, avoiding salt skipping, red meat, drinking more water, yet their creatinine keeps creeping higher like a silent warning signal they can't seem to outrun. And the scary part is, most of them have no idea that the real damage isn't coming from the foods they fear, but from the very first thing they eat every morning. I'm Dr. Johnny, and let me be brutally honest with you for a moment. High creatinine doesn't rise overnight. It builds, quietly, patiently. And the most dangerous moment of the day, the moment that decides whether your creatinine stays high or finally begins to drop, is breakfast. Yes, breakfast. The meal most people think is harmless is often the exact reason their kidney numbers refuse to improve, even when they're doing everything else right. And if you've been feeling more tired lately, noticing swelling in your legs, or waking up with a dull pressure in your lower back, that's your body begging you to stop making the same hidden breakfast mistake millions of Americans make every single morning. But here's the part that gives me hope for you. The same mistake that keeps your creatinine elevated can be reversed faster than you think. Not with expensive supplements, not with extreme diets, not with starving yourself or giving up every food you love, but with 3 simple breakfast combinations that are scientifically proven to lower creatinine, calm kidney inflammation, and ease the pressure on your filtration system before your day even begins. And once you understand how these breakfasts work inside your body, why they move waste out of your bloodstream, how they reduce inflammation inside your glomeruli, and what they do to stabilize your blood sugar, you'll never look at your morning routine the same way again. And as we go deeper, I want you to pay attention to something. Every choice you make in the first hour of your day either slows down the damage happening inside your kidneys or quietly accelerates it. That single truth becomes the bridge to understanding why the first breakfast I'm about to show you has helped so many of my patients lower their creatinine within weeks, and why skipping it may be the very reason yours hasn't budged. So let's step into it gently, clearly, and with the kind of knowledge that can change your health far more than any pill ever could. Steel-cut oats with berries may look like an ordinary breakfast, the kind you see on every shelf in every grocery store. But for people battling high creatinine, it works inside your body like a quiet, steady rescue team. And the first time my patient Michael, he's 59, a construction manager who spent years ignoring his kidney numbers, tried this breakfast, he told me he felt something he hadn't felt in months, a sense of control. Control over his mornings, over his energy, and over the fear that kept him up at night checking symptoms on Google. What he didn't know then is what I'm about to tell you. Now, steel-cut oats don't just support kidney health, they interact with your digestive system in a way that literally removes part of the creatinine your kidneys were struggling to filter. Inside those thick, unprocessed grains is a type of soluble fiber that acts like a natural magnet. When it reaches your intestines, it binds to creatinine molecules and waste products, carrying them out of your body through your digestive tract instead of forcing them back onto your kidneys. This isn't a guess. A study led by Salmian and his team showed that people who boosted their soluble fiber intake saw up to a 10% drop in serum creatinine without changing medications, without extreme diets, without complicated routines. 10% may not sound dramatic until you realize it's often the difference between early kidney damage and the stage where dialysis becomes a real discussion. But oats alone are only half the story. When you mix in blueberries or strawberries, something remarkable happens. Those deep purples and reds come from anthocyanins, antioxidants that rush straight to inflamed kidney tissue and begin calming the microscopic fires happening inside your glomeruli. Think of them as tiny shields patrolling the surface of each filter, intercepting the oxidative stress that slowly chips away at kidney function. And if you've ever wondered why some people with high creatinine feel drained by 10 a.m., this is one of the reasons inflammation steals energy long before it steals kidney function. Berries help interrupt that process. There's another silent benefit most people overlook: blood sugar stability. Steel-cut oats have a glycemic index around 55, which means they release energy slowly and protect your kidneys from the glucose spikes that force them to work harder than they should. A calm bloodstream is a healing environment for weakened kidneys, one where inflammation settles, filtration steadies, and creatinine has fewer chances to accumulate. This is why I tell my patients that the first hour of their morning sets the tone for their entire day, especially if they're fighting kidney damage. And the truth is, breakfast like this doesn't just feed your stomach, it signals to your kidneys that the day ahead won't be a battle. It tells them you're safe, you're supported, you can heal now. That psychological shift matters just as much as the biological one. But only knowing this isn't enough, because there's another hidden factor in your morning routine that can quietly sabotage everything you're trying to fix, something far more damaging than most people ever realize. If steel-cut oats and berries give your kidneys a gentle lift each morning, then the second breakfast is the one that gives them a chance to breathe. Really breathe without drowning in minerals they're too weak to process. I'm talking about fluffy, pure egg whites combined with fresh, colorful bell peppers, a breakfast that looks simple on the plate, but behaves like precision medicine inside your body. And I'll never forget the first time I introduced this to Linda, a 63-year-old retired teacher whose creatinine had been stuck at 1.8 for nearly a year. She told me she felt like every meal was a gamble, and breakfast was the one time of day when fear tasted stronger than food. But the morning she switched from whole eggs to egg whites, she gave her kidneys something they hadn't felt in months: relief. Egg whites are one of the cleanest forms of protein you can give a struggling kidney. They contain all 9 essential amino acids your body uses to repair tissue, including the microscopic structures inside your kidneys. Yet they carry almost no phosphorus. And phosphorus is the mineral that quietly exhausts damaged kidneys. When you eat whole eggs, cheese, or dairy, your kidneys are forced to filter out phosphorus that slips into your bloodstream. But your kidneys can't slip past the burden. They choke on it. They swell from it. They age from it. Egg whites avoid that entire problem. In fact, clinical nutrition guidelines for kidney patients often rank egg whites as the #1 safest protein because they provide the building blocks your body needs without dumping extra stress on your filtration system. And when you pair egg whites with bell peppers, red, yellow, or orange, you're adding something even more powerful, a direct hit of vitamin C and carotenoids that protect the delicate walls of your glomeruli. These nutrients behave like a protective coat, reinforcing the collagen around each filter, reducing the oxidative stress that drives creatinine higher. I've seen patients who couldn't figure out why their creatinine kept rising despite cutting salt and sugar. The truth was their breakfasts were loaded with phosphorus-heavy proteins that triggered a chain reaction of inflammation. When we replaced them with egg whites, several saw measurable improvements in as little as 4 to 6 weeks. But it's not just the nutrients, it's the stability this breakfast gives your entire system. Egg whites have a glycemic impact close to 0, which means they don't spike your blood sugar and force your kidneys into emergency mode first thing in the morning. A calm morning equals a calm filtration process, and that calmness compounds across the entire day. It's the difference between starting your kidneys on a hill or pushing them straight up a mountain. And this is where the real magic happens. When your kidneys aren't battling phosphorus and blood sugar spikes, they finally have the chance to focus on the one thing you need most: removing waste like creatinine. This is why so many of my patients tell me they feel lighter after switching to this breakfast. It's not psychological, it's biochemical. Their kidneys are no longer drowning. But here's the part most people miss: even the cleanest protein won't save your kidneys if the inflammation inside them is still burning. And unless you understand what triggers that inflammation, your creatinine may stay high no matter how healthy your breakfast looks. But knowing this still isn't enough, because the next factor is even more dangerous. And if egg whites give your kidneys the cleanest protein to rebuild with, then this third breakfast is the one that goes deeper, much deeper, because it doesn't just support your kidneys, it helps repair them at the cellular level. I'm talking about a simple, creamy smoothie made with unsweetened almond milk, fresh blueberries, and chia seeds. A combination so gentle you'd never guess it carries some of the strongest anti-inflammatory forces found in everyday foods. And I still remember the moment Sarah, a 54-year-old accountant who'd been battling stage 3 kidney disease, told me she cried after the first week of drinking it, not because it cured her overnight, but because she finally felt the morning pressure in her lower back easing for the first time in months. That's the power of giving your kidneys the right environment to heal. Almond milk is the perfect base for people with elevated creatinine because it carries only a fraction of the potassium and phosphorus found in regular dairy. That means your kidneys get nourishment without the heavy mineral load that forces them into overdrive. Think of almond milk like a soft landing pad. It delivers comfort. It delivers hydration, but it doesn't demand anything from your kidneys in return. And when your kidneys are already struggling, the foods that don't make them work are sometimes more important than the foods that do. But the real story begins with the blueberries. Those deep, vibrant blues aren't just pretty. They're loaded with anthocyanins that move through your bloodstream like microscopic firefighters. They rush straight to the small inflamed blood vessels around your glomeruli, neutralizing the free radicals that chip away at kidney function day after day. Studies from the University of Michigan and multiple renal journals show that these antioxidants can significantly reduce oxidative stress markers in people with chronic kidney issues. And when oxidative stress drops, creatinine often drops with it. It's not magic, it's biology. Then come the chia seeds, the quiet hero of this entire smoothie. Each tiny seed is packed with omega-3 fatty acids, which help calm the inflammation that silently burns inside your kidneys. And inflammation is the hidden force almost no one talks about. It's what makes creatinine rise even when you're doing everything right. But chia seeds do something even more remarkable. Their soluble fiber expands in your stomach and binds toxins in your gut, creating a second exit route for waste, so your kidneys don't have to push everything through the bloodstream. That's an unmatched advantage for anyone trying to lower creatinine naturally. This breakfast doesn't spike blood sugar either. Its glycemic index sits near 35, giving your kidneys long, steady energy without suddenly flooding your system with glucose. And if you've ever felt exhausted before noon or noticed your energy crashing long before lunchtime, that's often your kidneys reacting to blood sugar swings. This smoothie shields you from that roller coaster. What I love most is how quickly people feel the benefits, not always in blood tests, but in their daily lives. Less fatigue, less swelling, better focus. A sense that their body is finally moving toward healing instead of fighting against itself. And it only takes 3 minutes to make. That's the kind of simplicity people desperately need when they're exhausted from managing a chronic condition. But here's where the story sharpens. Even this powerful, soothing breakfast won't protect your kidneys if something else in your morning routine is quietly pushing your creatinine higher. And it's something almost everyone ignores because they don't realize how much it affects their numbers. But even with 3 powerful breakfasts working in your favor, there's a hidden factor that can completely change how your creatinine behaves, and most people never realize their kidneys are screaming for help because of it. I'm talking about inflammation, the invisible fire that burns quietly inside your kidney filters, damaging them long before symptoms appear. And if you've ever wondered why some days your numbers look worse, or why certain mornings you wake up feeling more swollen, more tired, more heavy, inflammation is very often the reason. I learned this the hard way through a patient named Robert, a 67-year-old former truck driver whose creatinine bounced between 1.7 and 2.0 for more than a year. He followed every rule. He cut the salt. He managed his protein. He stayed hydrated. But his levels never stabilized until we addressed one thing he never considered: silent inflammation flooding the tiny blood vessels that feed his kidneys. You see, your kidneys contain more than 1 million microscopic filters called glomeruli, and when inflammation strikes them, they lose their ability to remove creatinine efficiently. Think of it like rust forming on a water pipe. At first, the damage is subtle, almost invisible, but over time, the flow slows, the pressure builds, and eventually the entire system begins to fail. That's exactly what inflammation does inside your kidneys. Scientific studies from the National Kidney Foundation to renal journals across the U.S. show that persistent inflammation can raise creatinine by 10 to 30%, even when no structural damage has occurred yet. In other words, inflammation can make your numbers look worse than they actually are, and it can make minor kidney problems accelerate twice as fast. And the worst part, you don't feel inflammation, you don't see it, it doesn't hurt, but it silently restricts blood flow to your glomeruli, depriving them of oxygen and nutrients they desperately need to repair. This means your kidneys could be trying to heal but failing simply because the road that delivers nutrients to them is blocked. That's why so many kidney patients feel like they're taking 2 steps forward, then 3 steps back. They're improving their diet, yet inflammation keeps pulling them down. But here's the part most people never hear. Your morning routine can either fuel that inflammation or help cool it down. Every food you choose, every drink you skip, every stress response your body triggers the moment you wake up, it all affects your kidney's inflammatory load. And once you understand what drives that hidden fire, you gain something incredibly valuable: control. Control over how fast your kidneys age. Control over how consistently your creatinine moves. Control over whether you feel drained every morning or finally regain energy you thought you'd lost forever. That's why addressing inflammation isn't just another tip. It's one of the most important steps towards saving your kidney function. But even understanding inflammation isn't enough, because there's something else, something almost nobody talks about, that affects creatinine just as much as diet and inflammation combined. And unless you know what it is, you could be doing everything right and still watching your numbers climb. But knowing this still isn't enough, because the next factor is even more dangerous. And once you understand how inflammation quietly sabotages your kidneys, there's another piece of the puzzle that almost everyone overlooks: hydration timing. Not just drinking water, but drinking it at the right moment so your kidneys can flush creatinine instead of letting it sit and concentrate in your bloodstream. I can't tell you how many patients I've seen panic after a blood test, thinking their kidneys suddenly got worse when in reality, they were simply dehydrated the morning the test was taken. And the heartbreaking part is that dehydration can make creatinine appear up to 30% higher than it truly is, creating fear, confusion, and unnecessary stress for thousands of people who are already fighting hard to protect their kidneys. One of those patients was Angela, a 61-year-old grandmother from Ohio, who told me her creatinine spiked out of nowhere from 1.6 to 1.9 in just 2 months. She was terrified she was heading toward dialysis. But when we went through her routine, the cause became crystal clear. She drank almost no water until noon because she didn't want to use the bathroom too much in the morning. Her kidneys weren't failing. They were thirsty. And when your kidneys don't have enough fluid to work with, they can't dilute creatinine, they can't flush waste effectively, and they can't stabilize filtration. It's like asking a car to run without engine oil. The parts may still be functional, but the environment is all wrong. Research backs this up strongly. Studies published in nephrology journals show that mild dehydration, even just skipping your morning hydration, can create a temporary rise in creatinine that mimics declining kidney function. Your kidneys don't just filter waste, they rely on blood volume to maintain pressure inside the glomeruli. Without enough water, that pressure drops, filtration slows, and creatinine begins to stack up like traffic on a blocked highway. The good news: correcting hydration timing is one of the fastest ways to improve kidney performance. Many patients report clearer urine, better energy, and even stabilized creatinine within days of adjusting their morning routine. So here's the strategy I teach all my patients: drink 16 ounces of water about 30 minutes before breakfast. Not during breakfast, because that dilutes your stomach acids and slows nutrient absorption, and not 2 hours later when you're already dehydrated, but before. This primes your kidneys, increases blood volume, and allows the nutrients from your healing breakfast to reach the delicate filtering units that need them the most. When your kidneys receive hydration first and nutrients second, they operate more efficiently, more calmly, and with far less internal stress. It's a small shift, but one that creates a ripple effect through your entire day. And if you're listening to this thinking, "I don't drink much water in the morning either," you're not alone. In fact, I ask you to comment below if this is something you struggle with, because thousands of people watching this video are battling the same habit, and your comment may be the reason someone else realizes what's been hurting their kidneys. But even mastering hydration won't be enough if you're unknowingly eating certain foods in the morning that quietly destroy the progress you're making. And they're foods most people believe are healthy, which is why kidney patients fall into the trap again and again. And if you've been listening closely, then you already understand something most people never learn. Healing your kidneys isn't about doing everything perfectly. It's about doing the right things consistently, especially in the morning. And the fact that you're here still watching, still learning, tells me you're not someone who gives up easily. You're someone who wants control back, who wants clarity, who wants to wake up without fear every time a new lab result comes in. And trust me, that strength matters. It matters more than you realize. So here's my advice to you as your doctor and someone who genuinely cares about your outcome: stay patient with yourself. Stay committed to your hydration routine. Stay faithful to the breakfasts that protect you instead of harming you. Even if progress feels slow at first, I promise you your kidneys feel every good choice you make, long before the numbers catch up. And if you ever doubt that, just remember, creatinine rises fast, but it falls slowly, and that slow fall is still progress. Before you go, do two things that could genuinely change your journey. Save this video so you can come back to the steps anytime you feel lost, overwhelmed, or unsure what to do next. And subscribe to the channel because every single week I share new medical guidance to help you protect your kidneys, lower your creatinine, and avoid the mistakes that push so many people closer to dialysis without even realizing it. When you subscribe, you're not just getting information, you're joining a community of people fighting the same fight you are and winning it one day at a time. And let me leave you with this: kidney disease is not the end of your story. High creatinine is not a sentence. Your kidneys are incredibly resilient. They can stabilize, they can recover, they can surprise you. I've seen people older than you, sicker than you, and more discouraged than you turn their numbers around with the same simple habits you learned today. So keep going. Keep choosing the steps that move your body toward healing. Keep believing that your best days are still ahead of you. Because they are. You're not alone. I'm right here with you, and your kidneys are stronger than you think.